So I ended up thinking about a career in the non-profit sector because when I graduated I was thinking about which career I wanted. Didn't really have any kind of set ideas in mind, but I had this idea of making a difference somehow, and knew that I didn't want to be in a company that operated just for profit.
I grew up in America, and at first I lived in Alabama, but then I moved to Washington DC, and while I was there I got really interested in politics, and 9/11 happened while I was there, and it kind of made me think about what I wanted to do at uni. So I moved back to England and I went to Bradford University and did a conflict resolution degree. I think volunteering has always been something I've done, and I think it's just really part of my DNA, so it made sense with my degree and my past experience to look for something in a sector that I cared about.
So my relevant experience before I started applying was that I had been involved in a couple of committees at university. But most of my experience actually came from after I left. So it was in my jobs as a political analyst, volunteering, and working abroad in Cambodia. I did a lot of project work there, and I think that really helped build up my experience of what I wanted to do.
Before Charityworks, the work that I did that kind of helped me, I suppose, in my application, mainly was volunteering at a homeless shelter in the city where I went to university. And I kind of do that once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, just kind of helping out a bit, but giving me a sense into how a non-profit would run.
Being involved in a cohort of people who are also young people who are wanting to get into a career in the non-profit sector was really important. And I find that being on the programme, that is the most inspirational thing at the moment, is seeing how other people are working and just feeding off each other. And I find that energy just really great, and I don't think you could get there anywhere else.
Charityworks offered the opportunity to really broaden out my experience, first of all, because my experience was mainly around policy and research, and also to get stuck into the not-for-profit sector and to have a long-term job where I could really have an impact and develop professionally.
I found that not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, Charityworks was a really good place to apply, because you were applying for the general sector that you were interested in, which was the non-profit sector, and then they helped you go into a placement that would suit you, and the placement I'm in at the moment is actually one I don't think I would have necessarily thought about before, but I'm really enjoying it and it's something I want to do in the future.
The application process was quite daunting. There's quite a few stages and it's really rigorous, but I think a lot of it is sort of testing how good you're going to be on the programme, whether you're a real fit for the programme, and sort of feeling out where the kind of organisation that you're going to be well placed in.
The application process for Charityworks was very similar to my experiences of applying for jobs in the corporate and public sector. So it was very vigorous and quite intensive. But actually what was different was that no one was trying to catch you out at any stage, and there was this element of wanting you to do well, but also still pushing you at the same time.
So I'm doing a corporate placement at the National Housing Federation, and they are the trade body for housing associations in England. Housing associations, if people don't know, are charitable organisations which run social and affordable housing stock. And my role within the organisation is in the policy department. I'm a policy assistant working in the investment team mostly, so that's looking at sort of how many social houses are built, the investment programmes coming out of the government going forward. And I've also been working on a lot of regeneration policies, some community investment, and now I'm doing a secondment on the Lions Review for the Labour Party.
So I'm currently placed at National Union of Students, which is a voluntary membership organisation focused on improving the lives of students across the country. It's a really exciting and dynamic organisation to be a part of. I'm on a portfolio placement, which means that I go around and do different stations and work across different projects and across different teams. And for me, that was definitely the right choice, and I'm glad I'm on this placement because it allows you to get an experience within different departments.
So one of the best things that I was given the opportunity to be involved in was to assist on a culture change piece that we were doing across the whole company, which was an amazing experience. I got to work with management at all different levels. We helped design, research, kind of produce the change process, and it was kind of part of a much bigger plan. So I got to understand the long-term impact of the work that we do in the HR team.
At my organisation, it's quite a small organisation, and I've really enjoyed that because I've got to know a lot of people in the team, but also what everyone in the team does. So it's given me a really good all-round view of where responsibilities for the financial director begins and ends, even though I'm not actually in the financial department. And I've really enjoyed being able to see it all come together for a project rather than just being a small part.
The part of Charityworks that I've valued most so far is, I guess, the growing awareness of the Charityworks programme within the sector. So at one of our conferences the other week, I went up to Carl Wilding from the NCVO and was able to say, because I've seen him on speaking on the Charityworks website, hi, I'm part of the programme, introduced myself and had a good conversation. And it's just sort of those doors which open, and it gives you a reason to be able to speak to people within the sector, which I think is really valuable about the programme.
When I first applied, I was a bit worried about joining a smaller organisation because although it would give me maybe more rounded experience, I wouldn't carry the weight of a brand name. But I've actually found that the experience I've got has outweighed any weight that a name could have given me. And actually being involved in lots of different sectors has really built up my experience for what I want to do.
It's quite difficult to say what the most valuable part of Charityworks is in a way, because it seems to vary throughout the year quite a bit. So at the start of the year, it was having that space to share issues, ideas, how we'd overcome challenges with a whole cohort of people that are in exactly the same situation. So they might be working in different charities, but many of us are just starting working, we're trying to make our mark in an organisation, we're just encountering perhaps some of the eccentricities of the non-profit sector, and it's kind of how you work with those and around those and kind of make your mark, as it were. So that was the most valuable thing at the start. Since then, we've kind of done an assignment which is really great for exploring the sector as a whole and kind of the wider context and thinking about how we make an impact in our organisation. I suppose now, actually, at this specific moment, it's the use of a mentor. So I've got a mentor who's a chief executive of an educational trust, and it's really great just sharing experiences with him and particularly thinking about personal development right now. So I'll reflect on what I'm doing and he'll be great at putting that into a kind of CV-esque way to find my next role, or kind of thinking about positions that I might like to apply for or ways forward to think about doing that. So I think there's kind of different bits of the Charityworks scheme that really work for different people at different times, if that makes sense.
To anyone thinking about applying to Charityworks, I would say definitely do it. It's probably, for me, a really key moment in my life, the moment I decided to make that application, and I would advise anyone else that's interested to definitely take a chance and have a go.
When trying to encourage my friends to apply, I've sort of been highlighting the fact that they're very good at making sure that they only accept you if you're right fit. So I don't think you lose anything by applying. I also think that the feedback that I got from the sessions were really useful in themselves. So understanding what my strengths and weaknesses were. Luckily I got through, but I think even if I hadn't, that information would have been helpful then going on to apply for other jobs.
I think if anyone were thinking of applying to Charityworks, I'd have to say go for it. Both from the point of view that I wasn't sure when I applied if it was the right thing, but as I went through, there's so much consultation, there's so much reflection, so much chance for you to give an input of what you're looking for, that actually when I started it, I thought I was going to be onto a good thing straight away. But secondly, also because I'm really enjoying it now. And just within the few months since I started, I feel I've learnt so much, and that I guess the kind of my future career is still open, but I think what I've seen of the non-profit sector is really exciting. I think it really is a place where you can make a difference, and that might not be exactly as you thought it was. So I spend a lot of my time at a desk, which I wouldn't have thought I was making a difference. But actually, a lot of the time you really get to see the impact of what you're doing, and that's so exciting when actually you can go home at the end of the day and think that you actually did make a difference. And for me, that's, you know, it might be seeing a student who's kind of just had some preconception broken down, or just kind of had some hostility worn away, and actually you know that will go on to make a difference, you know, in kind of what they do. So it's not always easy, but it's mainly exciting, it's mainly rewarding, and it's definitely worth going for it, because the learning you get, the kind of the personal development that goes on, and the difference that you get to make, I think really makes it worthwhile.